Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Football Fanatic podcast, episode 66. You're down to just two amigos this week, as myself and Dan are representing the team. Howard and Decker are in absentia, so we're just going to power on without them. How are you, Dan? How are you? Good weekend?
Oh, yeah, all good. Yeah. Like my club, I took a nice rested weekend there. Weekend off, so I didn't really see a massive amount of the FA Cup ties. I kept an eye on one or two, but I kind of still was in the feeling of that had a bit of international football feel for whatever's going on with me with the FA Cup. It's not there. The love is not there for it. So I yeah, I wasn't that fussed, but I did watch your lovely club, and I know we get into that. So.
Yeah, we'll get into it, but let's start with what probably was your interest of the weekend. Newcastle, and keeping an eye on what was going on in that game probably was most relevant for you, Dan. So, what do you make of the game and a couple of big moments that might impact the Carabao Cup final for yourselves?
Yeah, I only seen like bits and pieces of it. I kind of when I seen that Isaac was playing, I fancied Newcastle. I wasn't sure whether or not he'd make it. I know Brighton have been on a good run, but I think they kind of let one go there again. Newcastle. I know they have the cup final coming up. What are we Sunday week? But it definitely for me was another one when you look at what was left in it. I felt after City, you'd say Newcastle are probably the next best. In my opinion, that were left. So yeah, a few big incidents like the Gordon one, of course, is the standout really considering for Newcastle outside of Isak, he's like their second best player, you would say. Definitely in goals, chances, the running that he does for the team, like he's a really good player. So it was a moment of madness, wasn't it?
Well,
I don't know whether or not
what
they're
did you make of it, Dan? Like, do you like? I suppose I kind of like I heard from yourselves and what I wasn't watching the game live.
Hmm.
It was it's a red straight away. And when I'm looking at it, like, kind of went to push him and just missed and hit him in the face.
Yeah,
Do
I
you
think
reckon there's
the
any grounds there for like any sort of wriggle room and an appeal
yeah,
there?
I didn't see today whether or not they have, but they talked when they were looking at the grounds for appeal. I don't think it'd be overturned. I do get what you're saying. Like he doesn't, he never come across to be that kind of a player either. It was very out of character, I think, for him to be. I know he likes to jump on the floor a bit, but like and he likes to kind of he does have a bit of a personality. I think it was out of character, but I don't think he'll get away with it though. Do you know that? It'll be interesting to see, but I just think it was red was quick enough, wasn't it, to be shown. I do think what you're saying is true though. It kind of was one of them where there was a bit of a and he kind of went to shove him nearly, but kind of like shoved him in the face.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Like I just looking at
yeah,
it a couple of times, and I just felt like he went to push, like he was
yeah,
frustrated or whatever. He wasn't getting the ball, and he went to push him, try and get away, and it just seemed like he missed the shoulders and caught him in the face. And um, like when you look at other red cards this weekend, like it
oh,
probably
absolutely,
was
yeah.
down the list. But yeah, look, I think I agree with you. I do think it's going to be really be a costly one for Newcastle
It's a
because
big blow, yeah,
lose Gordon, the quality that he gives and the work rate he offers as well, like defensively as well as offensively,
yeah.
it will be a massive blow long term. But like the Newcastle had just it wasn't a good day for Newcastle. They just didn't get the rub of the green. Even like in extra time, Shar scored a goal. Fabian Shar scored from a beautiful delivered free kick, and it was the most marginal of
Yeah.
offsides. Like you were drawing lines left, right, and center trying to find the gap. Like and Arsene Wenger's actually been kind of promoting, re-looking at her use of the offside rule, and that it wasn't designed for these minuscule. Your
Mm.
elbow is playing some line, or you're like, that there should be daylight between the player. It should be an obvious advantage because those little pieces that we're measuring at the minute, are they really realistically an advantage to a team? Uh, do you think that's something that maybe should be under consideration, or is
It,
it just is
yeah.
it much easier just go black and white? This is the line. You're onside, you're offside.
But there's two things. Well, one, given what you just started with there, around the whole expression of it, give advantage to the striker was always a kind of underlying rule before VAR anything came in. It was always kind of you give the advantage to the attacking player was kind of the whether it was enforced or not, or whether or not it was dependent on the day, probably. But that was always kind of what was kind of being said. I suppose. Well, like where are we with our the automated offside stuff? Like we talked about this in the pod back last September around what's to come in October. I know maybe not necessarily in the FA Cup, but like this kind of thing has gone on. You see it working in other leagues. You see it working in Europe. Um, as I know, I'm kind of slightly moving away from your question, which is I think that it'd be nice at Ranger's rule. I'd agree with that. I think that'd be good if that was the case. But I think what we're dealing with VAR, that's not going to happen. But I think the automated thing is just takes the lines out of the equation. So you see it the whole time on social media. Where have they drawn the lines? They have in the past got some of them wrong. So there's always going to be a question mark with, is that line exactly in
Yeah,
line where
yeah,
it
yeah.
should
I think
be? And
we'll always find a way to complain somewhere or the other.
of
Like if it
course,
goes against your team,
yeah.
you're gonna
But the
look for it.
automate,
But
I like the automated one. What do you think of that? Though I like that. I think it's
I would have agreed with you until I saw the Bournemouth game at the weekend, and Bournemouth the automated it was too congested in the box
yeah, yeah, yeah,
or to decide whether it was automated. And 7.5 minutes later, after going to Stanley Park, you're getting an answer that still wasn't fully clarified, whether it was offside or whether it was handball or whatnot.
okay,
But
yeah.
yeah, look, I think automated worked very well in the Euros, and I don't
It
understand why
did,
it's
yeah,
taken so long to come in as like a staple in the Premier League, because it'd just speed the whole thing up, and there is too many delays at far. So it is supposed to be, I suppose, this fifth
yeah.
round was part of it. But yeah, like a 7.5 minute delay, with both sets of fans agreeing and chanting that like football is dead. Like when the
Dead.
Bournemouth and the Wells fans are chanting it, like this isn't football anymore, football is dead, all this kind of stuff. Like
Yeah.
it's not great for the game, but yeah, look, we'll VAR is going to be, I think, a continued for something that was supposed to improve the
I
game. It feels like we spent an awful lot of time talking about, but I suppose to go
yeah.
back to the Newcastle game, the result
Mm,
and everything, it is a great result for Brighton, 5 wins in a
yeah.
row
Flying, yeah.
It's a great response to that seven since that 7-0 loss. They're 5 wins in a row, first club record, and he hasn't a quarter final of the cup. And looking what's left in there, Barman City, you'd have Brighton in there with a really good opportunity.
Yeah, just to finish on the Newcastle, like just when the Gordon being out, if that is the case, you're looking at Isaac at the moment. Is he, how fit is he? We know his history in the past.
Dan, you're opening the polishing the trophy cabinet, making space already with all
No,
these
yeah, well, what I
diplomas.
would say is, I mean, it's a thing that, like, look, you imagine they'll wrap him up in cotton wool, Isaac, and he's their main threat, and he's already proven against Liverpool and against Van Dijk and Kanate that he can be a handful and score goals. But what I would say is, like, if Hall is out, the talk was that he's gone for a scan, and they didn't look great. If he's out and Gordon are out down that side, that's Salah's side, and you're looking at it going, what are they going to do? Will they end up moving Byrne out to the left back, and then you're playing Harvey Barnes on the left? But like that's either way you look at it, Hall and Gordon for the majority of the season, bar the City game, have been exceptional. Probably maybe you could argue maybe two of the best down that side for their club this season. So like that is a huge blow to Newcastle. And I think the time they played a couple of years ago in the final, they were missing a big player. Was it Bruno or they were missing someone big against the? Was it
Ramirez, I think,
Bruno?
was missing.
I
Yeah,
think yeah,
yeah,
as
I think he
well.
was.
So
Yeah.
they can't really afford, to be missing players. So it'll just be interesting to see what Newcastle team throws up. They look, regardless, they're still a good side and it'll be a good game. But of course, it gives more of an advantage to Liverpool. But I won't be just polishing the cabinet just yet. I might polish it anyway, just
Just
to
in
have it
case,
there.
just be prepared. Yeah.
But
Yeah, no, I can see it, but Isak was like in this game, he was phenomenal. Like the ball back net 2 or 3 times, could have had more, and just with offsides and marginal calls and slightly delayed passes into him. But like his finishing is so quick, like it's on the money. But when you hear like again an injury of him, like no matter his quality, when you have a price tag being of
100
what's
plus.
debated to be around 100 to 120
Mm,
million, and you have such talk from like Arsenal and the likes of being linked to them, it's hard to really see a club making a commitment like that on a player who is so prone to being so injury prone, but despite all his qualities. Do you not think that
mm,
would you think that would be a big factor in whether he does leave this? I know Champions League will be an influence as well, but like, do you
yeah.
think his injury record could be a problem if he wants to go to pastures new?
Yeah, you wonder like there is a durability question mark. Now, look, he has played the majority of the season. I think his record this season is better than previous ones, but there is that question mark with them. Um, whether or not if he went to another club, would he have to do as much running as he does at Newcastle? Maybe if he was at Arsenal, Liverpool, maybe again Newcastle with poor Callum Wilson, talk about injuries. Like Callum Wilson is the replacement for him, and he's just been had has a brutal injury record. So Isaac has been really having to play every game. So there is that question mark. I still think it'd be a chance worth taking. Like I suppose, like going from a Liverpool perspective, if you could get 60 or 70 for Nunes in the summer, which would be great going, and then manage, and you have to just add 50 million, which Liverpool have already recouped and just being in the Champions League and doing as well as they've done so far, they've really recouped that. So, you're looking at going, God, it wouldn't be money well spent to have him up top. I think he's excellent. Like he is, he's and I think, even him and Haaland, if you look at both of them as players, there's probably not a whole lot in it. What do you think? Like, in regards
No, I
to,
think Haaland probably like I think if you put Isak in that, I actually think he's nearly a more clinical finisher
I think so.
than Haaland. He just
Mm,
is so rapid, as in he knows exactly what he's doing when the ball's played in him. He's basically the shot has been lined up a minute, and the contact he makes with it, it's just now he is in flying form and he is like confident. But I just think he like some of the goal he scored two goals there the weekends, one of them disallowed, but it was on the turn, pass through, like coming over on the ground where he's coming across his body, and he just takes it first time.
yeah,
This beautiful connection across the goalie. Like just I just thought it just looks a threat all the time. So he's
yeah,
the type of player I think if I had to pick between the two of them to watch, I pick Isak every day.
definitely, yeah.
Because I feel like he brings so much more, whereas Haaland is just that kind of devastating finisher.
Mm.
Isak has more to his game, I think. But look,
So it will
we
be
we
interesting, like as you said, Brighton, moving on to the draw and what's left. Like I think it was good, I suppose, for the FA Cup that Forest and Bournemouth got through. I just wouldn't
yeah.
think it would have looked as attractive if Wolves and Ipswich had. It would have been attractive for them, of course, but in regards to looking at what's left, it wouldn't have been as attractive. Because there's a few nice ties. I even think that City going away to Bournemouth, that is not going to be an easy one.
That's that's a tough draw for City. It's probably the toughest of what was remaining.
Mm.
And like Bournemouth are so aggressive and press so high,
They'll
but
outwork
then they
them.
have Hyson and at the back with speed and mobility that they can afford to do it, and they're not really exposed. So you can see that Bale's influence in Areola there. But like, yeah, I think for City now, if they can get over the Bournemouth game, they'd be firm favourites. But if Bournemouth were to pull one out of the bag and get past City, which they've already done this season, it would
Mm.
really be at the magic of the cup being back. Who's going to win it?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it'd be great for any of the remaining clubs to put their name forward, have a chance to go to Wembley to lift up, whether that be Fulham, whether it be Nottingham Forest. Clubs like Fulham have never won
Mm.
a trophy, like, and although like they didn't have to beat much and beating us, they do have a good team. They have a good manager,
Yeah, they do.
and
They're
they
good.
could go far. Brighton, I don't know if they just have a feeling Brighton are going to do well. Spring, the kind of everyone who was out injured is back. They've really responded to that horrible 7-0 defeat excellently. You couldn't ask more from them.
Mm.
And bringing on like the likes of Welbeck down an experience like that on your bench to come on and make the difference in the game is
And you know what?
just phenomenal.
Yeah, and you know what? The two guys that Newcastle sold, I think we've seen this season that they kind of, I know it was due to financials that they had to, but in Minta and Elliot Anderson at Forest, I think they're two young players that the Newcastle will look back on,
Yeah.
in a couple of years. I think Minta is an exceptional talent, and as is Elliot Anderson. And both of them have got plenty of football this year, and they don't look out of place when they play. So it's just
Especially when you look at the squad depth in Newcastle,
yeah,
like have adding those two players to that squad would make a phenomenal difference. Like they're
absolutely.
such quality to develop, but there wouldn't be the pressure to be playing full like in week out either. But
Mm.
it just shows the impact of the financial rules and like trying to balance your books. It just becomes the most important thing at the end of the day. So,
Yeah.
yeah, look, they are. I've been very impressed with Minta anytime I've seen him this year. And Anderson has had a brilliant season at Forest.
I was going to ask you, so if we're saying, right, so we're taking City off the table here, okay, because neither of us want them to win it. So who's left? Who would be your? Mine would have been Newcastle, given just
Yeah.
I think I read it was 66 years since they've won a trophy, which is just crazy to think for that club and fan base. But of what's left, like who would you be rooting for? I think I'd be in the Bournemouth camp, given just how good they've been this season for me. I think.
Yeah, I think Bournemouth are just such a joy to watch that. they'd definitely be up there. Like they've such creativity, and when you consider that they've probably had like Evan Neeson, that was his first game back. They haven't had a
Mm,
striker, and they still managed to keep the run going, the form going, and the style of football. It's very hard, and I really rate Areola as manager. So for him to, he never would even when in his playing career he got to a final or semi final of the Copa del Rey, and he brought Ray Valad to I think semi-finals, maybe quarterfinals of the Copa del Rey as well. For him, he hasn't really got silverware in his playing or managerial career, so to be a serious achievement for him. But
mm.
if it's not them, I'd probably have Brighton in a second place. Although I know they were probably one of the most high spelling clubs this year, like the project and what they've done there and how to develop the club. Um,
Yeah,
would be a real example to other clubs if they were to go on and be able to like not alone be a successful Premier League team, but a winning team, a cup to reinforce all that the good things that are being done at that club. They'd probably be but second favorites if I had to put them that way in my preference anyway.
yeah. I think like when you look at what's left outside of City, though, like even though I don't agree with it, the semi-finals are still at Wembley, aren't they?
Yeah, semi-finals
Yeah,
are
I
Wembley.
don't
Yeah,
like that. What about you? I don't like that. Personally, I just think that the ticket for Wembley should be getting to the final, and that should be that. And I understand the reason why there is two semis there, but like for the likes of the teams that are left, who rarely get a day out at Wembley, when you look at what the majority of clubs that are left there, like even getting to the semis, having that day out at Wembley would be a big occasion for them, and like definitely one of them. When you look at maybe, I know Villa have probably the easiest tie. They Villa Preston, isn't it?
Preston. Yeah, Preston.
You would say that.
Although
See,
Preston like put 3 goals past a Burnley defense that hadn't conceded,
yeah,
have only conceded 7 or 8 goals all year. But Robbie Brady scored an absolutely delightful free kick,
yeah.
top corner from about 35 yards out. I'd say
Would you give
it
them a
was excellent.
chance?
Sorry.
Yeah. Would you give them a
Give
chance?
Preston, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, give Preston a chance. Yeah, like they're at home too. Like Villa are going away,
Mm.
so like Preston are a funny team. Like they're like they they never really go higher than seventh and lower than
No.
14th in the
Yeah,
championship.
yeah.
So for a bit of excitement for them, I suppose, is no harm. But yeah, it'll be interesting. Like in Villa defensively a bit iffy. Like so, that'll be a
Mm.
good draw. Like Villa, look, Emery. It's a great opportunity for them as well to get a trophy. So look, it'll be interesting to see where it goes. But I do think this weekend has been costly. We've mentioned I suppose, the impact on Newcastle possibly going forward, but it's also costly for Wolves. Like
Mm.
Cunha's red card,
Oh, terrible. 4 games, is it?
like
4?
it's his second red as well at the instance
Yeah.
for pulling off the glasses and stuff. So like he'll be in for a ban. And
Yeah, I
he
read
made sure he got
4.
sent.
I think I read
It's
4.
definitely
Is it
four,
4?
yeah, but it could be increased. Or is it
Long?
confirmed as
Yeah,
four?
yeah.
Sorry.
No, 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 no.
Um,
It could be more. I know what you're saying. Yeah.
so that includes the fourth game of that would be Ipswich away, and
Yeah.
they're playing West Ham and that as well. Like so, like if they were to drop points in one of the three previous, and he's their main goal threat. Like
Oh, it's brilliant. Yeah.
it really could have a serious Ipswich. Like maybe must be looking at that going, this is a huge boost for us because it also makes you wonder maybe is that the reason that he's Arsenal or a larger club didn't come in from in January before him go and sign a new contractor, as it seems to be the way it's going. Is it that temperament issue a problem,
Mm.
and why a top club? Because he demonstrated he scored an absolute beautiful goal out of nothing, and you're like, this
Yeah,
he's
he's
such
brilliant.
quality.
Yeah.
But there is
He, he,
another side, like
he was over in Atletico under Simeone for a while, wasn't he?
yeah. Well, the
Learned a
commentator
few
on
tricks to
the
trade.
match was like I haven't it was Martin Keown or someone who used to hit pretty hard like was
Mm.
commenting and I haven't seen a response like that, like a smack to the head, a kick, and a headbutt. Since the 70s on a pitch was his response, like so like it was the most blatant red card you could see, like but
Yeah, no,
um
it's a bad one for Wolves. As you said, if there's anything, any sort of, you want to try and pull any sort of motivation for any of the sides that are below Wolves, because considering when you look at the table, like, they aren't nowhere near out of trouble, Wolves,
no, like they're five
considering,
points, like so
yeah,
a
yeah.
loss and an Ipswich win and a game against Ipswich or a draw, like just there's anything in that game. It just could be a costly one.
Mm.
Um, and I suppose the last other thing that stuck out for me was like, and this was definitely a red card, was attack up in John Philippe Mateta. Did you
Oh,
see
yeah.
the goalkeeper clearance?
Oh,
Um,
God. Yeah.
I
You were a
the
goalkeeper.
Millwall
Talk to me about the Moss. What do you reckon? Will he come back in five?
Look, like there's nothing you can say about it. This is what happens when you bring goalkeepers outside their box and you don't use your hands and you don't know what to do and you panic. And a split second decision. Now, look, thankfully, he's going to be all right. But it could, luckily for Palace, he's going to be okay. He 24 stitches,
Yeah.
um, side of his
Is he
head and into
concussed?
his
No.
ears.
Did he get concussion? No.
No, it was just a
No.
laceration. So
He's a great
thankfully for him,
player.
but hugely important. And just on Palace, Glasner plays 3-4-3. Do you know?
Yeah, he does.
Or he plays with wings backs. And you
Yeah.
know, apparently you can win doing that.
Nunes and Mitchell are good wing backs too.
Good
Yeah.
wing backs
Yeah.
that can run up and down, make and can attack is actually a very beneficial to a system.
Mm.
But no, like
And
I
a
wish him
striker,
well in his
Moss. And a striker
the
as well. Yeah.
striker. And to be fair, Nketiah come on and scored again. That's 2 goals in a row, 2 games in a
Mm.
row. He scored for Palace. He's starting to find once I felt once he got that first one off his back, he was going to start hitting ground.
Yeah, yeah.
Scored an excellent header. So Palace looking again this coming into the end of the season like they could be making a
Solid.
push for a higher edge on the table or at least the lower half of the top half. But yeah, look interesting. We'll see how the draw goes and we'll go on from there. But
Do you
uh,
want to do you want to make any comment on your
no,
on Man
I
United's
sent
exit?
you a voice note earlier, Dan, wondering could you name any club that was successful on the pitch when everything behind the scene or there's a lot going on behind the scenes? And I was going through them and I honestly don't think I come up with one. I was like, that's my excuse now. That's what I'm going to say. There's just a shit show going on in the background. How could it possibly
Mm,
go well on the pitch? But no, there isn't too much to say. Look, we're in the game. It's kind of telling when a 17-year-old comes on for your main 75 million striker and makes you look an awful lot better.
mm.
Bruno again, piece of quality, dragged us back into that game.
A
I
great
give him a
goal.
bit of
Yeah.
credit for Anana for some decent saves, but there were saves you expect him to make, but he hasn't been doing that recently. And look, you lose on penalties. That happens. Like I don't think I can overly complain about it. Fulham had their chances. But and they control the ball. Like we played like an away team at home in Old Trafford, which is disappointing. But I think it's
I
also
know.
playing to what our
It
strength
kind of suits
is.
you. It does. I think so. Like if you look at that last few minutes of that game, like because it kind of got to the stage where United were trying to probe and press, and probe anyway, maybe not press, but they got to the stage where they nearly just they couldn't get control of the ball, control of the game, so they did kind of retreat. And then when they brought Garnacho on, and that's happened a couple of times in recent, I think recently United when they bring Garnacho on, at least they look like there's a bit of something. I don't know to what level you want to say that is. I really rated him when he got into the team first, and I still do think he's a good player, just lacking on confidence and maybe a bit of direction at the moment. Maybe doesn't suit the system as well. But like when they got the ball out to him and he went in that last kind of period and played on the break, I thought they looked more dangerous than they did for the majority. I think the Bruno one kind of came. I don't think they were particularly pushing for a goal when the goal came, but there's no doubt that Bruno is the quality of that team. And actually, you know what? In the few games that I've watched, and again, I don't know what position he is, but Xerxes has a nice few touches and a
Yeah,
few little moments where I'm like, you know what? There is. I don't know whether or not he suits the league or whether he'll suit your Man United long term, but you know what? He's clever enough. Like when you look at him and we look at Hoyland and a few of the other players that United have in around it. Maybe I do. You see more of United than me, but when I watched them, Moss, I kind of thought that there's moments. He has moments anyway in games.
he does. Yeah. Like he hit a beautiful pass for Garnacho to put him through in extra time, and
mm,
he kind of fluffed the shot a little bit. But there's like Xerxes definitely improve. Like if you want to say improve in terms of improvement, massively. His fitness and stuff.
yeah.
He's leaner. He's got funny like he had was booed off against Newcastle.
Mm,
Um, and his next away game, he was like they just chanted his name the whole way through, as in like the fans were nearly affronted that their other members of the fan base had let them down by booing their own player. And since that, he's been constantly supported and chanted at from the crowd, and you've seen a noticeable upturn in his performances and good moments from him. Like, look, he's not had great games all the time, but in that kind of deeper rowing position, you can see what he brings to the table. He's got silky touches. He's the sort of player that'll take it, pass it around the corner. But if you want to run behind or any of those things,
mm,
like we only have that with Garnacho, like
yeah.
So
And really now,
um,
like, look. like I know the Europa, and I know we get onto the other competitions. They get the tough draw for them this week, but like when you look at what's left to play for this season, is there even an argument to say give that young lad in the league anyway, give him maybe a couple of games and see what he's about, and get like take Highland out altogether and start maybe trying to blood some of these young players through the academy United,
Yeah, it's
and
like he is only 17, like as in
yeah,
he's very young. But like yeah, I kind of in years gone by, that was when United had the League One and they started for the last 4 or 5 games, start bringing in the young fellas from the academy. But
yeah.
I think financially, the way things are, we are
That's what I
going to
mean.
have to
Yeah, it's
come.
just
We're going
yeah,
to have to come from our own academy. Realistically, there's Darren Fletcher's son, Jack Fletcher, is potentially being brought into the first team. Moorfield has been brought into the first team. Hayden, Heaven Aiden, who came on the last game in at centre back, has come through. Was bought from Arsenal's underage academy and is
mm,
now kind of, he's only 18. He's part of the senior squad. And there's a Malian international we bought at 16. Who's a deep line defensive midfielder who's supposed to be very athletic. Spent last year with the he's playing with he's on the youth cup team this year. Um, and kind of expected to be brought into the first team squad next year. So look, there is talks with, I think, wing backs. I don't know where we're going to get them from. The hardest probably to get, but I think looking
mm,
at, even just looking at Palace and the two wing backs, Mitchell and Daniel Muniz, like they make the system work, and they are attack minded and they score goals. And
yeah.
like Mazraoui and Dello have lots of positive attributes, but they're not in the final third. And if you want to play a wing back system, you need them to be offering something like that. So look, there's changes being made. It's going to happen. There's the talk of him being sacked is increasing. His odds are coming down in the
Mm.
bookies. I
Did you hear his press
pers
conference? Like it was interesting. I think in the Urban Almond, Everton Almond, yeah.
Yeah,
But that bit where he was kind of saying that the goal is to win, of course, like the goal is to win the Premier League. But he said it two or three times, maybe not with me. And I just thought that was a weird kind of thing to say. It was something along them lines. It was like,
it was
uh,
yeah, that's the way it was clipped, but the way he actually said
yeah,
it was some of the players won't be doing with me. So as in
okay,
some of the
okay.
current players, like some of the players will
As
be
opposed to
gone.
himself. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I think that's the way when I listened to it in full, that was the way I took it up, was that he meant that that's the goal, but some of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
players won't be here with me to do it, as in some of them know they're leaving, basically, with the way he put it.
Thank folks says you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But look, fair play to Fulham. They were the better team today. They deserve it, and we just have to take on the chin. There's huge pressure going into this week. Um,
Mm.
like if it's Atletico, it's going to be against Sociedad. We need a win, or basically our season's bust. With no chance of European football or anything like that on the horizon. So, if they go out against Sociedad, it's going to be a very bleak run in for the rest of the year. So this game of the
That's
weekend
a
in
tough
San
draw.
Sebastian or
You
on
said as well
Thursday is
you
the
said the
record
record
is
in.
awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awful in Spain. So look, it's really going to be. It's a. I think I don't know whether we're better off away. We're away of the first leg on Thursday, in San Sebastian. They're a good team. Like Submendi, and they've what they've developed in the Basque region, and the amount of
Mm.
Basque players and stuff they have is just phenomenal. Like the culture is there and the standard that they've developed. They lost a few players last year, last summer, like Normendi and stuff. That went to Barcelona, Madrid, somewhere. Atletico. I went to Atletico. Sorry. And they managed to keep Zubimendi, but like they lost two or three strong players last year, and they've slipped down from being in kind of fourth or fifth to, I think they were fifth or sixth actually last year in La
Yeah.
Liga, and
Yeah.
they're down to like 11th this year. But look, they're still playing a lot better than we are. Um, and to be honest, they're favourites. I don't see too much about it. I if we win it, it's going to be a huge bonus. But like, by no means are we one of the favourites for that for the Europa League. Like, you're looking at Atleti Bilbao, they look excellent. On top of that, then you've got Spurs are probably going to be one of the favourites. Sociedad probably would have been in the top half or high expectations
Yeah.
anyway. So look, we'll see how it goes. not overly optimistic, as you can guess from my general demeanor in talking about Man United the last while.
Yeah.
Take each game as it comes and hopes that they're the only positive that I can say after the last three games is like, look, we were very poor against Everton. We fought back and there was a good fight. We went down to 10 men against Ipswich. We conceded a goal before halftime to go 2-2, and they fought back and they worked hard. And although they weren't fantastic against Fulham by any means, I felt like there was a bit of a togetherness, a bit of a work ethic, um, a bit of team spirit, which isn't something we would have associated with them at all. So, uh,
Mm.
I feel like they speak positively about the manager. I feel like they're trying to create a culture, but I think it's just there's so much going on behind them. There's not that support structure clear, who's in charge, what is on that successful clubs have. So I think it's going to be a slow and long road to get anywhere towards the sort of team we used to be.
Do you think that you were mentioning about this the whole sack, and I know that that started not just recently, like that was a good few games back where there was murmurs around, fans wanting them gone and stuff like that. But is there any realistic chance that if they kind of finish in around where they are in the table, so 13 or 14 or whatever, and again, chances are they're not going to win the Europa League. Is there any possibility that they could just decide this isn't working, and or is it just a thing of, look, uh, we I suppose the other side of it is the financial side of then even sacking them, trying to get somebody else in, and that,
Yeah.
that is a big thing at the moment with Sir Dim. He's
Yeah, see, that's the
it's
thing. Like any sort of logical dictates that you don't like, as in you give him
yeah
this season was always going to be figuring out what players he wants to get rid of, and the summer then tr change what you can, try and make steady improvements, and see can go up the league. But like they got rid of like the Ashford thing is just blowing all that sort of logic out the window. Like, um, that he could just decide to pull the trigger and get like there's managers been linked with it and stuff like that. Like, so I don't know.
yeah.
It's very hard to guess what's going on, but I
What's
would
going to
be
be cut next, Moss? What's
I
going to
would
be
be
cut next?
horrified. I think that they'll actually have turn to like light saving bulbs or something next to United,
I
so
read the
you'd only
thing
able to
about.
see half the pitch or something like
Did you read that?
sensors.
Yeah, did you read that one with the staff member that was there 50 years? Did you read that one about
No, I didn't read that one. No.
her name is Kathy, I think, and she was like, she passed away there recently.
Oh
Um,
yeah, sorry. Yeah, I know she was
yeah,
like greeted everyone coming in. Yeah,
oh yeah,
I
like they're like a lifetime, and like I think should the Buds be babysitting? They're like 50 years, like I think at the club or
yeah.
something. But that one about that she passed away, and the club contacted 2 days after asking about her season ticket to recall it. Are you following that one? No.
I didn't see that at
Yeah,
all.
the club
Like,
kind of said it was a mistake that they didn't mean it, but I didn't hear it at the time, and then there was a podcast I was listening to. It was kind of came up and the conversation came up. I'm not sure what it was I was listening to on, but it came up around like, but not remember what happened. Because we're talking about obviously all the cuts are going on at the moment, and
yeah.
and this came out then anyway that they went after. But it's just another story that even if like parts of it are true and it was a mistake and it was whatever, like the administrator, but like when you see all the other things that are going on, and then when the accounts come out there about the money that they've given Ten Hag with his new contract, and then they sacked him, and then you see all of these kind of cuts. You're talking about their clubs in disarray, but like if the Glazers were doing like this, you know what I mean? It'd be no, but like no, I'm not trying to, but like
No, yeah. Like as in
you know,
Ineos have not been any sort of a saving grace at all, and like they're having loads of troubles with all their like I there isn't exactly like I can go to, oh, this is they did this at this club or that or they this in sport, like they're getting sued by New Zealand for pulling out of a deal that
yeah,
they had for their sponsorships. They're struggling, they're cutting back on their cycling team, their sailing team. So like across the board they seem to be having issues. So look,
morale is supposed to
um
be horrendous, like
I
across the
think
board, like
that's a huge amount of it. And
yeah,
I think Roy Keane's attack on Bruno was a bit over the top when you look at what Bruno has done since he came to the club. His numbers, yes, he can be petulant, but like I don't think you can doubt his commitment and what he does on the pitch. He works his socks off. Yeah, he can be a moaner. He can go down a bit easy for my liking. Um, but he drags that team
yeah.
back into games, create is the only creative outlet, and puts his body on the line. Like he has missed 3 or 4 games. Last season was the first time he missed any games through injury since he came to United. So like
And there
that,
hasn't been any too many positive transfer stories since Ferguson. that he can actually say like he's come to United and he's improved as a player and improved the team, and he's probably is the stand regardless about his
I'd say
attitude or
he's
what you might think of him.
probably about it. He
Yeah,
he's the absolute. And he must. I honestly think if how he must be looking around, going, "What am I doing here?" Like, as in what's around me that's going to drag it on. But we're hopefully.
mm.
That's look. I'll rant about United
Yeah,
all day,
yeah,
so I
yeah, I
won't do
know.
that to you. But
Yeah.
yeah, look, it is what it is. But yeah, San Sebastian this weekend, this Thursday, 5 o'clock, which is a third, just a
It's
reflection
a
of the
five, right?
it's an early kickoff. So like, nobody else wants to watch us either, apparently. So that's the story. But look, we turn towards the Champions League,
Yeah.
Dan, and give us your take. What do you think? You have you're tomorrow night, aren't you? Your
Yeah,
Thursday,
we're
your
tomorrow night.
Wednesday.
Yeah, I know we're recording here. There's a couple of there's a good few juicy ties, but if I was to try and just even to kind of give an overview of what who's left in it, I don't actually think there's that many teams that are left in it that can win it. I don't know if you feel that, but when I look at it that there's the Champions League's gone by. You might say there might be a couple more teams, maybe five teams, six teams that can win it. I think realistically, when you look at what's left, there's probably three, maybe four max that could actually win the Champions League. I feel of
Who are
what's
your
left.
potential winners? So who's left?
So if I was to look at even say just what I think the semi-final lineup would be, I think they're the four that would be left. I think it'd be Liverpool, Madrid, and the semis on one side, and Inter and Barcelona on the other ones. And I think that Inter maybe on a stretch, Inter are decent, but I think that's what I think it would boil down to as regards teams that could actually win the Champions League. And I do think that I don't think PSG can win it, and I don't think that Bayern Munich say would be there are two teams in years gone by where you'd be like, oh, they'd be contenders. When you've seen Bayern Munich against Celtic and what they've been at in the Champions League this year, I can't be having them. And I've never been a believer in PSG, and we can clip this. I can't see how they'll beat Liverpool over two legs, and I don't understand this kind of hype train that people seem to be on to kind of to talk up PSG. To be honest, I understand that they're buying goals in for fun and they did get their shit together slightly to get into the knockout stages, but I'm still a bit bemused as to people talking as if they're like a contender to win it. I don't get that, to be honest with you. I know they bought the guy from Napoli in
Chris
the
Kelly.
yeah, and he's a good player. Like I'm not like they definitely have more team ethic than they've probably had in a number of years gone by, where they had a lot of stars. Well, I'm just looking at it going, I just don't see it now. And I said I've been wrong before and I'll be wrong again, but that'd be what my feeling on it. I think over the two legs we should be beating PSG. I'd be very disappointed if over the two legs that we couldn't beat them. I wouldn't be surprised. It wouldn't be. We've done this a few times this year where we've gone away to places and not played great. Maybe got a draw or maybe snuck a win or even been a goal down. But you think coming back to Anfield that would have enough to see it through against them. And I'd love a quarter final with Villa. I think would be just go crack over the two legs. I hope Villa get through. And it's just one more thing. I'm rambling here. But one thing I will say is we talked about it about where Liverpool finished top. And I remember you asked me the questions in the group as to like what advantage it is. And I said, well, the advantage is that they've obviously earned quite a lot of money because they've won so many games to be there. And then the other advantage being that they didn't have to play the two-legged knockout. But when you look at it, from where they finished versus what they could have got, I think is Villa had Lille, wasn't it? Lille,
Villa are against Club
Arsenal got
Brugge.
sorry, Club
Club
Rouge, and
Brugge.
Arsenal got PSV.
PSV.
And
Yeah.
you're looking at it going from where we finished and how we got on to maybe the tie we got in comparison to some of the others. It really wasn't a fucking advantage, was it?
No, no, it's just that's the thing with the draw system. You don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
But I'm
What do
surprised
you
you
make of it?
haven't included Barcelona in that. Like with the season they've had, is it
No, no, Barca. No,
just them
no, 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 Barca.
defensively?
No. I do. I think if you were to nail me now, I think Liverpool would struggle with Madrid that we're seeing now. Liverpool would struggle over two legs to beat that Madrid side, but I'd love a crack at it. I think that'd be a fantastic
Yeah,
semi-final. And I do think then on the other side, if I think Barcelona, if you look at what Barcelona have done to Madrid this season, if they got to a final, you'd fancy Barca. I
yeah,
would. So I'd be
yeah.
in Barca camp looking at. You take it all as as I suppose as a season. Fair enough. Barcelona went a bit off the boil there. I think was it in the build up to Christmas and
Yeah,
they kind
but
of were going well.
they've settled back into it again now.
Yeah,
But
but I do think if Madrid got Barca in the final, based on what I've seen, I watched a couple of them at Clásicos this season, and I think Barcelona have hockeyed them once or twice, haven't they?
yeah, Yeah,
Yeah.
they have.
What do you
Now
think?
that was Real Madrid at the start of the season. February Real Madrid on
Yeah,
is
true.
tends to be a different animal.
Yeah,
But
no, true.
I,
Mm.
I actually don't think Bayern Munich will get through this round at all. I kind of fancy Leverkusen to knock them
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
I think Inter are always strong, although Di Marco, one of their wing backs, I think is out injured, and I don't know if he'll be back by the end of the season, which it would be a huge blow because he's does an awful lot of good work for them, defensively and offensively. Um, Arsenal have an all right run to get themselves into it, but I just don't think they have enough to really go into the deeper part of the competition. Um, yeah, I think this Atletico Madrid game is going to be a
Mm.
behemoth. And
Eh,
I would love Atletico to knock them out. Like
mm,
Atletico having a phenomenal season. And for a team that spent so much money, and it started off poorly, kind of the first third of the season, they really found their form, and went in a decent unbeaten run. They're really challenging in they're like it's rotating from Madrid to Atletico to
mm.
Barcelona in third, for the title, and I'd love to knock out Madrid, but like it's
Do,
probably not going to happen.
do you know what though on him as well? Like in fairness, like to give him his dues. When they've had dips and he's had to like reinvent teams with Atletico, he's always seemed to be able to make a few changes. Fair enough, as you said there, like he's back as well, but he always has seemed to be able to develop a team again to go maybe a year or two later again and go for another league title and be in the discussion. Like you know,
Yeah,
he definitely at some point you would imagine he'll move on from Atletico, and it'd be very interesting to see him go to another league. And like he is, as much as people love or hate him, he has that Mourinho kind of about him that there's a wow factor. There's also a kind of
yeah,
he'll if you have him as your manager, you'll love him, but everybody else will despise him, kind of a thing, isn't it?
yeah. I think he's the sort of man that you go to war for if he's on your
Yeah.
side, and he's the one you'd be trying to attack if you're on the other side.
Mm.
But
Be interesting
yeah,
two
look,
legs though. I wonder it'll be interesting two legs that
it will be
derbies
an
like that as
interesting two
well. Yeah.
legs, and they have like Atletico have a good team, like as in
Yeah.
they really would put it up to them. Alvarez has had a really excellent
He started to chip in.
half of
Yeah.
the season. Like Griezmann is always a creative outlet there. They've got
Mm.
a great goalkeeper, with Oblak there, solid defense. Probably lacking maybe a bit in the central midfield. It's more of a workman like team, but they have a bit of they have a bit of depth, I suppose. You've Gallagher and Conor Gallagher from round Lamar, Thomas Lamar, Witzel, I suppose. There's a few names like that, like to add on. But when
And
you
they
look
do have
at
some that've been around the block. Like there's a good few that have said
yeah,
they've been there a long
like
time
they
as
have
well.
enough
Yeah.
nous about them to
Yeah.
to not fall for any kind of tricks, or to be well able to. I'd say to be well versed in their dark arts themselves. But no, it's going to be an interesting one for them. So we're sure we'll call her Super Six while we're on it. Just
Yeah,
look at the
just while
Champions
we're
League
here, I
now.
don't know. We know we checked the game. You know, it actually finished 3-1 Villa, which is a fabulous
Three
result
one.
for.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah, yeah.
big result. I just gonna
Um,
say, Dan, that at the start of the season, I said Villa were going to get to the last eight of the Champions League, and you
did
laughed at
you?
me. So, yeah, in our predictions pod, yeah, you were like, you thought I was being very optimistic, so you did.
Uh, yeah, but Emre, in
But
fairness to Emre, you know, he's a man for European competition. He has the pedigree, so I think it'll be an interesting tie. Liverpool obviously will be favourites if we get there and we were to meet them in the quarters, but it'll be some two-legged affair. And like Villa
Marco Asensio is looking like the
they
shrewdest
bought well. Yeah,
signing of the January window. And himself and Rashford seem to have really clicked together. They've set each other up. Rashford set him up for a good few goals, a lot of assists for. So they have, and they have the depth now that they can bring off Rodgers, bring on Asensio. They have Rashford one wing, Bailey the other wing.
yeah,
Probably lacking a bit, like when Tyrone Mings is still starting as their centre half. It's probably still lacking
yeah,
a bit.
yeah.
Defensively when
They got a few
Diaz.
injuries, didn't they? Pau Torres got injured. Hans has been injured. They kind of
Yeah,
haven't had
Collins
a
is back
settled
in it,
back
but Pau
four.
Torres is a huge loss. Like
Yeah,
especially playing
yeah.
out from the back, and his recovery pace and stuff. Yeah, no, he's definitely a
Do you
loss.
remember the guy that got was it from Sevilla that time when he done his ACL at Diego Carlos? Like, there was big talk of him being
Yeah,
a
he was sent either sold around out and
yeah,
gone.
he's
Then
gone, yeah. But
yeah,
he done his ACL when he came in straight away. Like there definitely could do with a getting a centre half in the summer, but there's no doubt in the attacking areas like they've strengthened and it'll just be a case of whether or not that whole 2 game week thing and where they prioritize because at the moment in the league you know they're not far off it, but they're the ninth or tenth at the moment. So
yeah. And
it's
Champions
one of the
League is
yeah
getting Champions League is vital for them
yeah
kind
yeah
of to continue to develop. because they're financially in pretty tight in terms of the amount of money they're putting on wages, spending on wages. So that they're really going to need to push for the Champions League. So it will be interesting to see what they
Yeah.
prioritize there. But it'll be their an Emery team over one or two games. Like you'd always fancy them to get a result. So we'll look down. We'll go to the prediction
Yeah.
scores for Super Six. The Super Six is on tonight. It's the midweek Champions League one. And those are winning over the top of our league. I think is still your brother Dan. He's still out
No,
ahead. Oh,
think
he's
he got
been.
he.
Oh,
No,
he's
he
down to
did. I think.
second. Only by
Yeah,
a
yeah.
point. Darren
Yeah,
Mitchell.
it just goes to show you though. So Darren Mitchell got 14 points in the last round of games, and Richard only got six. So there was an 8 point swing, and that's all it can take. So Darren Mitchell is top. I think he's been chasing for a while, but he's hit the front now. So it'll be interesting to see can he keep it going. But it's yeah, like it's all it takes. You can get 2 or 3 weeks there where it's going well
Yeah.
for you. You know, even when you think you're dead and
You've
buried in it.
shot up the table, Dan. You're up to
Yeah,
six.
well,
I've
like
gone the other way.
six, you're what? Yeah, like what is there? You're 12th, yeah. But like when you look at it, 30, 40 points. If you get a couple of weeks there, the problem is when
See,
you're down there, you kind of nearly need to be a bit more adventurous with your score predictions because you can kind
yeah,
of
you're
guarantee
trying to
that.
get them perfectly right. Like, yeah.
Yeah, you can guarantee a lot of people will be going 2-1, so you're going 3-1, and you kind of
Yeah.
hoping to try and pull a couple of points back. Yeah,
But €100 cash is the prize. So currently
cash.
Darren Mitchell is in the lead with his 1 point lead. So the narrowest of leads at the minute. So it's going to be interesting from now to the end of the season. But Dan, we start off with Arsenal for our beloved Howard, who is on full-time daddy's duties the last couple of weeks. What are you going to go for against PSV?
He's a nice excuse at the moment, isn't it, for how quiet he is?
Arsenal have gone quiet and Howard's gone quiet.
Yeah, I've gone for 1-1. Yeah, I do think that Arsenal at home will probably have enough the second leg, but I think PSV aren't bad. They're not a bad side, and if Arsenal are struggling, which they have been to score goals, you know, it's definitely not a shoe, and I don't think that they'll
No, and
take the
like they
lead.
kind of PSV knocked out a Juve team that were kind of
Yeah,
around a similar level to Arsenal in that they're kind of not operating at full capacity, lacking a
mm,
bit up front, but defensively quite strong. So like
yeah, it's
it's
like a 1-1.
yeah, solid. The Real Madrid Atletico, that's the hard one to call.
Yeah, I've gone for Madrid just I've gone 2-1. Yeah, I actually think it could be 0-0. I
Actually,
have
won't be
that feeling.
surprised.
I have that feeling that it could just be a filthy game and let it go, bring it back, bring back a draw. But I've just gone from Madrid just based on their performance against City and the way they just seem to be flying that they'll pull a bit of magic out of somewhere. So I've gone for them to nick it, but I was close to
And
going for a
how
draw on
many
that one.
red cards are you predicting in this game then?
Do you know what? Well, I've gone 2-1 for goals, and there could potentially be that amount of red cards
Yeah.
in the game. But yeah, I was close to going for a draw. Though. What about you? What do you think?
I actually have the exact same scoreline. I've Real Madrid
Yeah.
2-1 against Atletico. I just especially with the Bernabeu and stuff, you kind of would fancy them to make it, but to be a tight game nonetheless. Dortmund and Lille, I feel this. It's hard to know. Lille have been involved in kind of high scoring games this season, and Dortmund are kind of an unknown quality with the new manager. But they've started to make a little bit of progress in the league, so I've gone for them to win in a high scoring 3-2 game against Lille in Dortmund. Then Dan, you're the one you're truly invested in, Liverpool PSG.
Yeah, I've gone
Right
for Liverpool
away.
to take a slight lead. I think, given as well just that they didn't have to play at the weekend, they should be well up for it. I've gone 2-1 Liverpool, but again, I think that they'll get a positive result going back to Anfield. And I do think that they should be able to beat PSG. And I find it interesting. I will enjoy watching the game to see the kind of way that they're being described PSG that that a lot of people think they'll win over the two legs. You think
I
that?
don't think they'll win, but I
You
was
think,
impressed with them enough to think that it'll be a contest.
yeah,
Um, not necessarily that they'll win, but I think it'll be a contest.
because I know
Um,
that because I know like though let's say Brest, right, but like PSG in the league for the last number of years would beat Brest on a normal given day 5 or 6-0. You know what I mean? Like I understand Brest have had a decent turn, but I'm not looking at that going. That's not like I don't know about you, but I'm not looking at that
There's
going, oh Jesus,
still though the Bet City away, they like Bet Stuttgart, which are another tricky enough team to play against. So like I feel and there's definitely a different element to this team. Um, they're good going forward, but they're just much more defensively solid. And like at the
and
same
they
time,
have a few
you
players
could
around
have
a while.
you could
Marquinhos
have
around a while, isn't he? Yeah.
yeah, Vitinha, like, but I think in my head, my concern is that if Dembele actually decide if he had a good game, he could score
Yeah.
4 goals. Do you know,
Yeah.
but if he could also cost you six, like he's just one of those
And
players.
he's running against Robertson. One people he off the right, he comes in off the
Yeah, and
right.
he's
So
got a lot of pace, like so
yeah,
that
yeah.
could be something that they will target.
I've gone 2-1 anyway, but like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if it ended up a draw, or even if Liverpool were to be a goal behind. But I still think over the two legs they should get through. But I've gone 2-1 anyway. Yeah.
The German top of the table clash coming from Germany, Bayern and Leverkusen. I just don't trust Bayern when things get tough.
Mm.
Um, so I'm leaning towards Leverkusen in that, but that could go either way. Dortmund or Munich have enough up front that they could get a few goals, but because Leverkusen aren't the most solid defensively. But
Mm.
I've gone 2-1 to Leverkusen, and then finishing off with Barcelona Benfica, which is a hoping is a fraction of the game that it was in the group stages because I watched that game in full and it was end to end. It was 4-4. It was
Yeah.
red cards. It was brilliant. So I'm probably hoping for a lot now to live up to that. But I have Barcelona to win that 3-1.
Yeah, I've gone 2-1, but I think it would be tighter because I think Barca like they were that was the last game of the group, wasn't it? No, was that the last game?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah,
So like there wasn't both of them were already, it was kind of one of them you could do that where this is now a two-legged affair with a lot more on the line. So I do think it'll be a bit tighter, but yeah, I think Barca will get the job done. Yeah.
and then into before we finish up,
Mm.
fantasy football will be kicking off again this weekend.
Yeah, fantasy football will be kicking off. It'd be interesting now to see there's a gap coming up now. Not this weekend, the following weekend with Liverpool and Newcastle and Villa and Palace. Is it? There's four teams anyway that won't be playing the following week. I don't. Yeah, four. I think there's a couple of games that aren't on anyway. So for this weekend, though, it'll be interesting to see. You'd imagine captain is probably going to be Salah. You would think Liverpool at home to Southampton. Most people would be captaining him. But if you do own a lot of kind of like Newcastle players, Villa, Liverpool, you'd be kind of looking at what your plan is going to be, moving maybe for that game week coming up, blank game week for some. I brought in Cunha, my good buddy, last week, and interesting enough, he has done nothing in the game that I brought him in for, and now we'll have to take him out.
Yeah.
So I seen that kind of conundrum. There's a good few people who have Mateta and Cunha, so they were, I suppose, hoping that Mateta's injury wasn't going to be too big of a one because it was a bit of a blow for some there who had both. But yeah, look, it'll be an interesting. The chips kind of start to get played now over the next couple of weeks. Any chips that people have left, would be triple captain or free hits or bench boosts, usually they all start to be thrown out now over the next couple of weeks. People trying to make ground, people
Yeah.
trying to stay where they are. So it'll be
Well, Dan, you'll surely be trying to stay where you are, won't you, since you're top of the pile?
yeah, but look, I kind of can see like that a few of the people around haven't used their triple captain yet, so I think that will play a big role.
Have
I
you
haven't,
used yours?
no, I haven't used it yet, but like that'll be an interesting one what people decide to do there. There is, I think, a double game week coming up in a few weeks' time where Newcastle, obviously now who aren't playing in the weekend of the cup final, they have two games in a week, so they'll have a double, and Palace I think have a double. So that might be, there'll be a couple that'll have a double game week left. But if you ask me now, I wish I used it when Salah, instead of the assistant manager one in one of them double games
Yeah.
Salah had, he done very well in both. So I probably wish I kind of used it there. But yeah, it's very tight at the top there. Like I have an 8 point advantage, which is not really worth talking about. Like, and your buddy here, the poet, is flying as well. He's going very well actually. He's been
He
creeping.
is, yeah. He's really kicked on there. To be fair to him, because he'd slipped
Yeah.
down to seven or eighth, but he's right back up there again. Yeah. It looks like I will be buying yourself and Howard a lovely
I
steak
didn't want to
dinner.
say it, Mass, but I
I'm
haven't
stuck
seen you get
down
out. I haven't seen
45th.
you. I haven't seen you get above 40. I don't think in a long time.
No, I got up to 41 there for 2 weeks ago, and then just straight back down to where I belong. But yeah, look, it isn't looking great. But Emery was my assistant manager, or is my manager assist. So I don't. Although I'm hoping Howard's continued distraction with a new arrival in his
Yeah,
house
where's Howard?
might
Let's have a look
might give
here.
me hope. He's there in 34th, so he's 1672.
Yeah,
I'm
do you know what? He wasn't on the podcast a couple weeks ago because I wanted to tear into him. You don't know if you realize that a couple weeks ago he captained your man Manweri at Arsenal. Like now
I saw that. Yeah, yeah,
that is
actually,
that is a
yeah,
man who is who's gone heart over head anyway.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I actually saw that because I was like, how did I make so much ground and power? Because he was about 80 points ahead. He was 80, 90 points ahead of me. But it's down to
Yeah,
about 50 now. So, there's still time. Hopefully, the man
you never
will
know.
be
That's
will
something to
be
chase. These are something
distracted.
to chase there, Massey. Something to
Yeah,
chase. Come here.
yeah,
Before
yeah.
we finish, I have a question for you. So I was thinking about this there the other day. Like, if City win the FA Cup and finish in the Champions League, have they had a better season than Arsenal?
Yes,
Okay.
probably. It's kind of hard to argue with that Champions League spot and a cup against second spot and
Mm.
drifting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very.
No, I'm just thinking from the point of view of like we fucking rinsed City here for a part of the season of how bad they've been, which they have been, and recently kind of look a small bit better than they did with a couple of signings and that as well. But it's a mad to think like that at the start of the season with City falling, off the wagon and it being Liverpool, Arsenal, and now for us to be kind of looking at the tail end of the season where we could be looking at City with an FA Cup and Champions League football versus Arsenal with just Champions League football going, considering where you were. And again, there was injuries, but City had injuries too. But I just thought that was an interesting thought that I had that I thought would rattle a few Arsenal fans and our good friend Howard to bring up on the podcast here. But I think that is the reality of the situation. That's what I just wondered what your thoughts were on that. So.
I think it's a good rallying call to see if we can get him back on the pod to defend his beloved Arsenal that's been getting a slating for the last 3 weeks and he hasn't
And
made it.
Queer, one other thing I wanted to bring up was just what did you make of Carragher's comments on the African Cup of Nations?
I actually thought there should have been more of a backlash. I thought it was a horrendous comment. I thought it was like so ignorant, and he
He
seemed to
was
get away with it. Like he got a bit of a
yeah.
hammering, but like I don't know what it is about Carragher. He can spit at people, he can insult an entire like continent's tournament, and he manages to just like flow off him. And he just gets away with it. I honestly thought it was horrendous to comment to devalue an equivalent to the
the,
Euros.
the way he talked about it was nothing.
Yeah. It was like it wasn't even it was like the Community Shield. It wasn't
Yeah,
even
yeah,
the
yeah,
Carabao
yeah,
Cup.
yeah.
Was the way he is the I suppose respect that he paid towards it. Yeah, I actually thought it was very disrespectful. I actually thought there would be much bigger backlash from it. Um, but apparently just gets away with it whenever Carragher does.
Yeah.
Why did you were you a full
No,
supporter
no,
of
I
his or
just thought it was interesting because it did get a big backlash. No, I kind of he was trying to make a point that went a horrendously bad way about it, just in relation to I suppose the Ballon d'Or and all that kind of stuff. But like no, like I don't think I don't think he got as much as he could have got. Yeah, I would agree with you. I think that
like
he was very dismissive, like and even the way his body language, he was just kind of like African nations, like it was
yeah,
sort of dirt.
that was the vibe I got. No, look, I do think I think I suppose maybe there is a certain amount of truth in that because European football is the focus of world football,
Yeah.
really, there is probably a greater value played in a player who shows up in one of the European leagues and also in a European tournament. But because of the scrutiny of the media, we live in that part of the world, so we're more aware of it, I
Mm.
suppose, maybe. But like, I just thought it was exceptionally dismissive of a prestigious tournament. Um, and I don't know, it just I like if it was other individuals, they might have been like, okay, we're gonna stepping back from media stuff for a week or two, like, but no, he gets rolled out again next week and plows on. So
Anyway,
I
yeah.
don't.
Yeah, and I know you sent me on the podcast. I haven't got to listen to it yet. Of course, I listen to that
It's
podcast down, but Massey has sent me on another one, which is great because I do feel at times in our WhatsApp group that I'm kind of like the three boys gang up on me that they're all kind of in some sort of reunion. But it's great to see that on the topic of Man City and the Chargers, that myself, Howard, and Mossy all stand united on this.
Yeah, it's about the only thing we all agree on. But yeah, I actually came across it, and it's actually very good. It's very in depth. So it's coming from the Football
Plug it there.
Daily,
Plug it.
from Football Daily through BBC, and it's all following the football on trial, the Manchester City Chargers. So it's available. First four episodes are available, and it's basically starting on the precursor, like the build up to the takeover, and then takes you through kind of from there, and there's more to be
From
released.
there.
So it's all leading up to what's going to be our results, hopefully, in the not too distant future. So
Yeah.
um and so when you're finished listening to this, clearly the best podcast, and you're missing out on us till next week, that should keep you entertained until myself and Dan and maybe Decker or Howard are back to join us,
Yeah.
as we review next weekend's fixtures. So, guys, thanks for joining. We'll hope to catch you again next week, and thanks for listening.
See you, folks.